Hi, this is Brian Goodman with Impactful Mentoring. You know, sitting back, I have two teens, and so I ask myself the question, why am I getting the same response to the question, how was your day? Okay, okay, it was okay. So I came up with some questions here that, we can ask as parents instead of how was your day. And I listed 20 here. I'll go through them and kind of explain my thinking here on this. But really, you may find that these questions just activate a different area of your child's brain than typical. So even if you have younger kids or older kids, i.e., spouse at home, some of these questions may help them too. So the first question is, I'll start with this: what's the best story you heard today? So for students, who have to piece things together, they have to recall the story and then they kind of have to put it together in their minds and then tell it. And so it kind of, I lead with that because it kind of is a good linear kind of thinking, but also, you know, pulls on the linguistic side in terms of the words. So I like that one. Number two, what did you do to show kindness today? I think that one's obvious. It's not, and again, teaching kindness is character, and I think that's a great foundation. So, number three, who did you sit with today during lunch? So it's not all that important, but it could lead to a conversation after that about, hey, why didn't you sit with this person or that person, or even like what was the conversation? And that's something that you might find leads to questions that you don't necessarily want to know the answers to with some teens, but it's a good question on the list. Number four, what book are you reading? So for me, asking this book, my teens, it's mostly for what they're doing for English or, a literature class. You could target some books for fun and, draw their interest in, no matter what reading level. You can engage them either using, different programs in the library. They can listen to it or using Audible, of course. Again, just another question. Number five. Now this is one that I like because it tacks on the colors here. But what wacky colors did whatever teacher, right, use during his presentation today? And so it kind of makes you think about like, oh, but perhaps not just a wacky color, but a wacky teacher. So that usually is going to bring a smile to a child's face. Number six, what after school activities are you thinking about attending this week? Again, just something that maybe catch them off guard, something to think about. Seven, tell me one thing you learned today and how you learned it. Now, so for me, I don't want to separate these two because it's kind of important that if like a child learns something that you kind of begin to figure out how they learned it. What's going to work for them at school might work for you at home. So I like that question. Number eight, what made you smile today? Right now, I am smiling, just just kind of going through this because it makes me happy to think about questions other than, well, how was your day? Number nine, were you upset about anything today? Now that's a yes or no question. So it is biased because you ask it in a way that it's kind of upset in terms of the mood, but it's yes or no. So the child can, they can elaborate. It's up to you to determine whether they want to. They kind of have a knack for it or need for it. But again, what were you upset about? Were you upset about anything today? Number 10, what vocabulary words seemed like they might be hard to pronounce? So, like that question may seem odd, but again, it kind of recalls the auditory processing that a student may have and how they actually then say the word. And so it also asks, hey, what new vocabulary words kind of almost did you learn today? Number 11, describe what you're doing for homework today, not just what is your homework. Describe what you're doing. So, if my 11th grader is coming home and he's doing like he's doing today. I think he did Quizlet for math. So, he didn't just say, "Oh, I have math homework." He said, I'm doing Quizlet." At least I think it was for math. Uh, Either way, just having them describe it is different than what do you have for homework. It kind of allows them to elaborate. Sometimes you can kind of figure out with a team whether they actually know what's up or not. Number 12. If I were to walk into your classroom today, what would I see you doing? Wow. Like, that's like kind of like taking a different perspective. And so it's a higher level question, but what would what would you see them doing? So they kind of have to think about it, and they maybe smirk a little bit. So you'll see some of that. 13. Were some of your friends absent today? So this kind of like draws on them being aware of who's there and who's not. And it kind of may help them find their place and the connections that they have at school. 14. Identify something you did today that I would be proud of. Okay, so that's like not it most likely something that not only they're proud of, but then in turn you're proud of, but allows them to show an area of somewhat of a confidence, most likely something that they've done well. 15. Was the classroom too hot or cold today? Now that's a question that would catch them off guard, but it might make them think, hey, wait a second. I don't know. Maybe in Mr. Goodman's class, it was a little chilly. I wonder if he had the windows open. It was a little breezy today. So they might think about that because, again, this time, not just this time of year, but I think of this now, but it brings to mind, hey, do they need to layer, right? Okay. 16. Who was the first person at your lunch table today? Now, certainly in some schools, this is like a race. Who's the first one at the table? So, I kind of like I'm always interested in that race. If I asked my kids when they were younger about that race, they could describe it. Number 17. What made you laugh really hard today? Now that could be who also, but the what? Like what made you just laugh hard? Okay. 18. Was there anything that made you nearly cry today? Now I say nearly cry because I'm judging, right? I don't want to say cry. I want to say nearly cry. Kind of, feel if they're upset in any way. But again, hey, having emotions is okay. And quite frankly, if something happened and was upsetting, it's okay to cry. And so, asking them that question, although it may catch them off guard, it's not really too bad. I mean, it's okay. It's okay to show quote unquote what some people perceive as being weak, right? That crying is not weakness. Are you kidding me? Right? That's showing emotion. We all emote in different ways. Okay. 19. What was one thing new that you learned today? Okay, so what was one thing new that you learned today? It's got to be something. And you could say it's not classroom based, it could have been at lunch, could have been wherever, on the bus, whatever. What was one thing you learned that was new today? Okay, and the last question. Who was your favorite staff member today? Now notice I say staff member, and I don't just say limited to teacher. I say staff member because, kids form relationships with everybody in a school building. That relationship is either one that is concrete, where hey, there's a back and forth, they know it, or it's one that's like kind of hidden in the background, and they're just part of the same community. But staff member, I think asking about the favorite staff member is kind of a cool question to end with here. So I hope you enjoyed here the questions to ask instead of how was your day.